Hey y'all, when Mafia the Old Country came out last year, I remember being confused as to how it was being received. I personally love the Old Country as its story, writing, and acting were all top tier. Many people recently pointed out, however, that its stealth and combat felt dated, as well as that the world was just completely empty. These are all reasonable critiques, as while that's not why I personally come to a Mafia game, modern audiences reasonably want some reason to explore a game's open world. I remember thinking to myself that all Hangar 13 had to do to fix this game's reception was take the time to release some kind of side content. The stealth in combat is a bit dated feeling, but for such a story-based game, it's not a huge issue in my eyes. Maybe a few side quests and other open world activities was all the game needed, as people just want some kind of content after the main story. And while the free rides update was added later, doing essentially exactly what I had wanted, I still thought more had to be done. When this DLC got announced, I hoped this could be the Old Country's big relaunch moment. Unfortunately, after playing it, Man of Honor just doubles down on everything people didn't like about the Old Country in the first place. The Mafia series is ultimately a story-based franchise, so naturally I expected the story in Man of Honor to meet that mark of a high-quality story. Unfortunately, Man of Honor's story is not good. It's certainly not bad, as the writing and acting were just as good as ever. The issue is just that not only is this clearly a side story with no reason to exist within Enzo's story, but this is just also not a very engaging story by its own right. The story is literally just this. Salieri, the Don from the first game, is released from prison and expresses his wishes to Don Teresi to move to America, directly setting up the first game. The issue is that two men stole the money he was going to use to do so, and so he needs your help getting it back. So that's literally what you do. You go find these two men and then get Salieri some money, and then he leaves. That's it. Now, I do understand this is a short DLC campaign, and so I'm not expecting some crazy story here, especially because the game calls it an intermission for Enzo's main story. My issue is just that this story does not have any depth, which is what I come to expect from a Mafia game. The story is literally what I just described, and while it is nice to get back into this world again, I was honestly slightly bored throughout my playthrough. There's no reason to be invested in this story because it has no impact on any character or the larger story of the Old Country. This is just a side story and that's it. The pacing is also kind of all over the place. This is a 2-hour DLC with 4 missions, meaning each is about 30 minutes long. The issue is that once again, I'm not invested in any of these missions because this is clearly a side story. The first mission is the worst example of this, as it has literally no purpose other than to make this DLC longer. It has no connection to Salieri at all, and so for the first 30 minutes of a 2-hour DLC, I was bored and found the story to be aimless. Unfortunately, this DLC does also feel a lot lower budget than the main campaign. There's noticeably less cutscenes, face and body animations are much lower quality, and there's also some cheesy fade to black with text from time to time, which just feels out of place. Again, this is something that is expected from a DLC, but because a Mafia game depends on its story so much, these issues feel so much more noticeable. The story wouldn't be such an issue if the game was actually fun to play, but really, it's not. The shooting feels bad and the stealth is a bit simplistic, so I'm not really having much fun while I'm playing these missions. They aren't bad exactly at all, as they do almost hit the bar of quality of the base game, but that bar of quality isn't very high. The gameplay isn't what kept me going in the main campaign, it was the amazing story, and without having all that here, it really goes to show how much of a chore playing the old country can be sometimes. It's not a bad story or even a bad DLC though. Maybe it's not worth $10, but this is by no means bad content. It just does not live up to the main story whatsoever. And to me, this is the reason why Hangar 13 and this DLC messed up so badly. While this may not work as a $10 standalone DLC, this campaign would be amazing as open world side content that's integrated into the main campaign. Man of Honor is not only separate from the main campaign, but also separate from the free rides mode. Maybe you can play the 2 intermission chapters during the main campaign, however, I launched it via the main menu. The thing is, despite being separate from the main campaign, it still falls within its limitations, meaning the game does not give you the chance to go out and explore the open world. It feels very small and closed off, adding more so to how disconnected it all feels from the main campaign. Since Man of Honor is an intermission, however, I think it would give the player the perfect opportunity to go out and explore the world. Man of Honor should be incorporated into the main campaign, however, only optionally. After completing Chapter 5, the game should give you the option to play the Man of Honor intermission. The DLC would play normally, with the one change being that after completing it, you stay in the intermission until you choose to continue. This will essentially just let you play the free ride and side content to your heart's desire, while still letting it fall within the limitations of the game's linear storytelling. The game should also take you back to this intermission point after finishing the story, again letting the player explore the world. This simple change would be, in my opinion, just enough to fix people's issues with the old country's open world. While it would only let you explore it at certain points, you still are given the option to do so with a pretty decent side quest campaign, collectibles to find, and many races or combat challenges to complete. For any other open world game, this would be terrible, but for Mafia, with its story-driven approach, this is just enough to satisfy people and give them a reason to get even more immersed into the game. Unfortunately, the separated nature of all 3 modes just does the opposite and shows how closed off this game really is. Overall, Man of Honor is not a bad DLC. Its writing and acting is still great, and while it may not reach as high of a bar as the main campaign due to its lower budget, it still feels like Mafia. It's just the story is so uninteresting, and with gameplay as simplistic as the old countries, that's a huge issue. This feels like a great side campaign and a fantastic addition to the open world, but unfortunately, Hangar 13 just doubles down on the old country's segmented approach. While fans of the game may have a good time here, I can't say this is a great reason to return to the game. Hopefully, with the next Mafia game, Hangar 13 can find a better middle ground between linear storytelling and modern open-world gameplay. I do not recommend Mafia the Old Country Man of Honor. 6 out of 10. Well, y'all, that's my review of Man of Honor. If you like this video, please make sure to like, comment, or even subscribe. Please also make sure to check out my TikTok at goodusername011. That's all I got for today, but I do want to take the last few moments to talk about me and my channel. Alright y'all, so I don't have much I want to talk about today, just a few things. So the first thing is that this is a short video. I think this is a good script, fine for what it is. I don't really have much to say about this DLC, obviously, but I'm happy with what I turned out with here. Let's see what else. Last night, literally right after I beat this DLC, we had, I guess, I wouldn't call it an emergency, but we had like a family thing happen. So that led me to staying up all night because something happened. Not a big deal, all resolved now, but it's fine. But definitely, like, that took away from the time I had to record this. So that leads into I'm going back to college tomorrow. So, I don't know if I'll be able to get this video out in time before I go back to college, but at the very least, I was able to record it while I'm here. So that leads into my next thing. What's my next video? Well, probably Crimson Desert, but when would that be? I don't know, because I've decided to replay a bunch of old games that I haven't played in a while, like 5, 6 years, like some Assassin's Creed games, Control, maybe the Star Wars Jedi games, Watch Dogs Legion, stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm gonna replay those before Crimson Desert. I'm not gonna play them all the way, probably, just because I've played them before, and so it's like I just want to get a refresher quick. But yeah, that could take up time. So honestly, it could be weeks before my next video. I don't know. Probably not weeks, but we'll see. No promises. But what I'm saying is that my next video will probably be Crimson Desert. It might be Blood of the Dawn Marker because that would take priority over Crimson Desert for me. But stuff like the next Plague Tale, that doesn't take priority. You know what I mean? So yeah. We'll see what happens, but I just want to give you guys a heads up that I'm going back to college. It'll be a transition period while I get all set up in my new apartment and all that stuff. So yeah, you guys, just might be a bit, but I'm still working hard. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.